Greetings and salutations. My name is Revieweng, and I review movies. But today I'll be giving you my predictions for the 2021 Academy of Motion Pictures and Sciences Awards, also known as the Oscars. Let's get started with Best Picture. Right now, my winner is Mank. It has everything it needs to be a Best Picture winner. A great director, helmed by David Fincher, great writing from his dad, Jack Fincher, and standout performances. I predict this film to get at least 10 Oscar nominations, which would make it the most out of any film this year. It will also likely get nominations in production design, editing, and cinematography. All three of those are key nominations if you want to win Best Picture. Gary Oldman and Amanda Seyfried have received tons of praise for their performances. Also, it's a film about Hollywood, and the Academy is made up of Hollywood people, and they love films about themselves. I would look to The Artist as the closest example, which was a black and white silent film showing the transition from silent to talkies. Here in Mank, Herman J. Mankiewicz, the screenwriter of Citizen Kane, considered the greatest movie of all time, will be trying to face his physical, mental, and psychological obstacles as he races to finish the screenplay for Citizen Kane. Simply said, this is Best Picture material. Now, by no means is the race for Best Picture over. Chloe Zhao's new film Nomadland is right behind it. Right now it is the most critically praised movie of the year and is a festival darling, winning People's Choice Awards at TIFF and the Golden Lion at Venice. It has the most praised performance of the year so far from Frances McDormand and also has a very strong performance from David Strathairn. The screenplay also looks to be close to a lock for winning adapted screenplay. People just can't get enough of this film. But what puts it below Mank is its lack of a strong plot. Also, Mank's Hollywood appeal just can't be denied. But simply said, this race isn't over. It will also receive nominations in cinematography and editing, two very important categories for it to get nominations in. The Trial of the Chicago 7 looks to be this year's crowd pleaser, and is still a very strong film in contention for Best Picture. With a razor-sharp script from Aaron Sorkin, which I think is only bested by The Social Network and his Steve Jobs screenplay, which I personally love. I don't know if other people do. But it also has very strong performances, with 4 actors in talks for supporting actor, including Mark Rylance, Eddie Redmayne, Yahya Abdul-Mateen, and Sacha Baron Cohen. This film also looks slated to win the SOG Ensemble. The reason I don't think it will win, well, I think Mank has a better chance with it being a Hollywood movie, and Nomadland has gotten a lot more critical praise. Another reason, though, is that Joe Biden won the presidency. This is a very democratic film, and with the Oscars being a very liberal organization, if Trump had won the presidency, I think they would have been more likely to give this democratic movie the win. But now that that hasn't happened, I just don't see how this thing will win. But it will definitely be a nomination. One Night in Miami, directed by Regina King, has strong performances, a great screenplay, and good direction from Regina King herself. In her directional debut, critics are loving her new film, and people think its tackling of important issues will send this right up the charts for Best Picture. A few things are holding it back, though. It's a play. It's not the most cinematic movie ever. Despite Regina King's creativity in blocking and certain shots with mirrors, it doesn't look like to be the cinematic movie that Best Picture movies often are. There are a few things that are putting it ahead, though. It has great performances. Both Leslie Odom Jr. and Kingsley Benadir are in talks for their respective categories. I also think this will definitely get a Best Adapted Screenplay nomination. Simply said, this film is just a Best Picture nominee. What else is there to say? Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, directed by George C. Wolfe, starring Viola Davis and Chadwick Boseman, just looks to be a great movie. Again, held back in its cinematic abilities by it being a play adaptation from August Wilson, this movie looks to be a crowd-pleasing and actor vehicle for both Chadwick and Viola, who I think will be very strong contenders for both of their categories. The direction, though, is unknown. We don't know how audience are going to like it. This movie could actually be bad, because it hasn't come out yet. But I think its important themes and music and makeup and hairstyling and costumes just will put it over the top and make it a definite contender for Best Picture. News of the World, directed by Paul Greengrass, looks to be another Best Picture contender. I think it will be getting nominations in both direction and screenplay, as Tom Hanks teams up with his Captain Phillips director for another Best Picture contender. The story has Tom Hanks playing a former Civil War captain who tasks himself with getting Helena Zengul's character to her family. I think both of them will be strong contenders for nominations in their respective categories. I also expect nominations in score, editing, cinematography, and production design. Thing is, we have no idea if this film is going to be good. No critics or anyone has seen this film yet. So we have no idea. It could be a bomb. But if things go as I think they will, this film will be the second most nominated picture behind Mank. And if it gets that many nominations, I don't see how it can't be a Best Picture nomination. The Father, directed and written by Florian Zeller, another play adaptation, looks to be another very strong contender for Best Picture this year. It has standout performances from Anthony Hopkins and Olivia Colman, who are both gunning for a win in their respective categories. It also is getting a lot of hype for editing, which would be very important if it wants any chance of winning Best Picture. But simply said, this doesn't seem like the most important film to give a win. It's not about Hollywood, it's not political, doesn't tackle important issues, but it will be a universal message, and I think will be heartfelt for a lot of people, as it deals with Anthony Hopkins playing an old man who is going through dementia, and Olivia Colman, the daughter, has to deal with that. We'll just have to see how this film does, but I think it will definitely be a Best Picture nomination. Minari, directed by Lee Isaac Chung, is one of my most anticipated films this year. It is getting so much critical praise, and people are praising both the performances, the direction, the writing, the score, and the cinematography, frankly. This has contention for almost every category. I think it's getting some talks for director. I think it will definitely be in for original screenplay. Steven Yeun is in a very crowded Best Actor category, but he's still a strong contender. Young Jun Yun is also a very strong contender in the Best Supporting Actress category. And frankly, this film about a family moving from Korea to Arkansas looks to be one of the most heartfelt and loved films of the year, and I just can't wait for it. And I think it will definitely be on your Best Picture nomination list. Now, assuming there's 9 nominations, my next pick would be Soul, directed by Pete Docter. From the director of Inside Out and Up, this film looks to be once again in the spirit of those and will just be the most loved, most widely watched film this year, I think. I have it almost locked for Best Animated Feature, even though Wolf Walkers also seems to be a very strong contender. But I think this film will get the important nominations to secure that category and a Best Picture nomination. The most important one being original screenplay. It looks to be there. And also the sound and the music are also getting praised. And I think that Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross will get a nomination for Best Score there, which would give this film the nomination it needs to be a Best Picture nomination. As far as my runner-ups go, I still have Hillbilly Elegy there, but it's been getting destroyed by critics. It currently only has a 21% on Rotten Tomatoes, which only some of the worst films ever get. Like, that is a real bad. Defy Blood still looks to be strong there, but audiences don't seem to be the most appealed to it. But the Academy does seem to be taking a liking to Spike Lee, giving him a lot more nominations, especially for his most recent film, BlacKkKlansman, so that still has a chance. Judas and the Black Messiah is also definitely there. Daniel Kaluuya looks insane in that trailer and is definitely contention for Best Actor. We'll just have to see, though, if any of these films are better than some of the ones I have currently as Best Picture nominations. That was a lot. Alright, let's move on to Best Director. Right now, I have David Fincher as my pick for Best Director. Based off the fact that I have Mank winning in Best Picture, I just don't see how David Fincher can't win. He's more owed by the Academy than the next person I have in Chloe Zhao. And Mank needs this win to get Best Picture because I don't have it winning either screenplay awards. Chloe Zhao does seem to have crafted a beautiful film in Nomadland, and it cuts like a human. But from what we've seen of Mank, it will just be the stuff that cinephiles and Hollywood lovers will just eat up. My other 3 slots for Best Director right now are going to Regina King, Aaron Sorkin, and Paul Greengrass. Now, I think that Regina King and Aaron Sorkin have crafted very loved movies that tackle important issues, so I think they're guaranteed to be nominations. However, I don't think either of them have a chance of winning because their movies are not nearly as cinematic as Chloe Zhao or David Fincher's works. Now, the one that's more cinematic is Paul Greengrass's News of the World. That is a one that I'm not certain will get a nomination because we don't know how good the movie is, but I think it has a much better chance at maybe winning than either Aaron Sorkin or Regina King. My other runners-up right now are Lee Isaac Chung for Minari. I think Minari is getting a lot of hype. People are loving it, and I think the Academy might get a hold of some of that hype. Also, we have Florian Zeller for The Father, and then before that we also have George C. Wolfe, who looks like he's bringing a lot to a stage play in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, so I think he's also definitely a contender for a nomination. And yeah, let's move on to Best Original Screenplay. Right now, I think that The Trial of the Chicago 7 has this in the bag. Aaron Sorkin has written one of his best screenplays, and he is a masterful writer. On the other hand, my runner-up Mank doesn't seem to be as strong. Despite its help from Eric Roth, writer of Forrest Gump, and David Fincher, Jack Fincher's screenplay doesn't seem to be as strong because, frankly, Jack Fincher was not a screenplay writer. David Fincher definitely looks to be interpreting this movie more through its visuals rather than its screenplay. My other 3 picks right now are Minari, Soul, and Judas and the Black Messiah. Minari because people just love that film, and I think I will love it too. And I really want it to come out, and it needs to come out, okay? Soul is from Pete Docter. 2 of his last 3 films have gotten a Best Original Screenplay, and I think I might be wrong, and that might be 3. So I think if this film is strong as any of his other ones, this will definitely get a screenplay nomination. Judas and the Black Messiah is my 5th one because I don't know if it's even coming out, or if it's going to be that screenplay oriented. Right now it seems to have great energy coming from Daniel Kaluuya, but we haven't seen the film, no one has seen it, so we don't know exactly. My runner-up behind that is The Five Bloods. People seem to love the screenplay. I personally love the screenplay. I love the movie, but that's me personally. People seem to think that overall the structure of the story is clunky, and that especially the first act is kind of boring. I disagree, but I don't know if the Academy will as well. Now, moving on to Best Adapted Screenplay, I think this category is much more set, even more than Original Screenplay. Chloe Zhao's Nomadland, with it being such a strong Best Picture contender, seems to be my lock, and I think it will remain that way for the oncoming months before the awards. The only thing closer to that is One Night in Miami. But I don't think people love that film nearly as much as they love Nomadland. Chloe Zhao did a very new thing by taking a book with no plot and making it into a screenplay with a plot. Behind that, I have News of the World, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and The Father. But they all kind of have the same problem. They're all based on plays, except for News of the World, which is based on a book. But frankly, I don't think that will be as screenplay driven because of the idea that it's more of a Western, there'll be a little more action, at least that's what the trailer heavily showed. There is a chance that, since it apparently focuses a lot on the characters, there could be a lot of great dialogue and a lot of great arcs for both the characters, but frankly I don't think it will happen. My runners-up right now is Hillbilly Elegy, but that film is just, oh my goodness, it's getting destroyed. It's getting destroyed. Everyone thinks it's bad. No one thinks it's good. Ron Howard is embarrassing himself, frankly. My only other pick right now behind that would be United States versus Billie Holiday. But I haven't heard anything about this film. I have no idea what its plot is. I haven't heard any images or trailers or anything for this thing or a release date. So I'm not positive this will be the film to get in for Best Adapted Screenplay. Now, we're going to get to the acting categories, starting with Best Actor. Frankly, this category is a mess because there's just so much talent here. Right now I have Chadwick Boseman with the win, but that's only because I think the Academy is going to want to give him a posthumous Oscar. Anthony Hopkins apparently just gives the performance of the year in The Father, and is just like the pinnacle of great acting in that. Behind that, we have Gary Oldman, Daniel Kaluuya, and Delroy Lindo. Delroy Lindo is right now my favorite performance of the year because I haven't seen any of the other movies right now, and he is amazing in Da 5 Bloods, and I think in a few other years he definitely could get the win. Like I said, this category is crowded because then behind them we got Kingsley Ben-Adir, who is said to be great in One Night in Miami, Riz Ahmed, who I think has the least chance for Sound of Metal, Steven Yeun in Minari, who apparently gives a great performance, but people say that he's gotten category frauded and that he should have been in Best Supporting, where I think he definitely would have had a shot for a nomination and maybe even a win. And then we have Tom Hanks in News of the World, and who doesn't love me some Tom Hanks? I love me some Tom Hanks. So this category is really tough, but right now I have Boseman over at Hopkins, followed by Lindo, Daniel Kaluuya, who looks like an amazing performance coming from Judas and the Black Messiah, and then Gary Oldman. Moving on to Best Actress. If you've seen the trailer for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, you know that the Academy will love Viola Davis's performance in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. The Academy loves when they can't recognize the actor on screen, and the makeup and hairstyling and costumes that they've done with Viola will frankly make her unrecognizable. I mean, I knew it was her because I knew she was going to be in that movie, but you couldn't. If I didn't know who Viola Davis, if I looked at that picture of the woman and said, can you spot her in the trailer, I'd have a tough time. So I think that will definitely be the winner. Behind her is Frances McDormand, Vanessa Kirby, Amy Adams, and Kate Winslet. I don't think Frances McDormand has a shot. She gives a great performance, but it's a very subtle one. I think the dark horse here is definitely Vanessa Kirby, who I right now have on my third slot. She doesn't have as great a chance as being as solidly in a nomination, frankly, as someone like Frances McDormand, who I think is guaranteed. But I think her performance might bowl over voters and frankly get her in contention for that Best Actress award. Behind that we have Amy Adams, who is apparently the standout in just a trash movie from Hillbilly Elegy. And also we have Kate Winslet, who is in a movie that is like Hillbilly Elegy in that it's not getting as much critical praise as people would have hoped, but people say that she and Saoirse Ronan are still make the movie. They're the only reason that movie is even talked about anymore. My runners-up right now are Andra Day for Billie Holiday, but I don't think she'll get a nomination for that because I don't know when the movie's coming out. I don't know anything about this movie. I don't have faith in that movie. The other one is Michelle Pfeiffer for French Exit, who, frankly, the French Exit got pretty weak reviews. Not as bad as Hillbilly Elegy, but not as good as Ammonite, which makes me think that I don't think she's going to get in. She'll probably get in for a Globe because it's a comedy, but I don't see her getting a Best Actress nomination. Now we move on to supporting categories, starting with Supporting Actor. This category, like Best Actor, is pretty crowded, but I think the winner, at least to me, is pretty clear. Leslie Odom Jr., the Hamilton star, looks great in One Night in Miami. And I don't think anyone else has a shot. The other strongest performances, I think, come from the Trial of the Chicago 7, and I think Mark Rylance and Yahya Abdul-Mateen will get the nominations, because I frankly don't see them getting more than 3 trial boys in here. And frankly, for the win, I think the votes are going to be split between the two of them. The other two I have right now are Bill Murray and Stanley Tucci. Bill Murray because he frankly carries an otherwise not lackluster movie from On the Rocks. And Stanley Tucci looks to have a pretty Oscar bait performance in Supernova. This definitely could easily change. I could see the Academy giving it to either Charles Dance or David Strathairn. But from what I hear and what I've seen in Nomadland, David Strathairn isn't in that movie enough, and Charles Dance also isn't mank enough to get a supporting actor nomination. But both of those could definitely still happen. But let's move on to Best Supporting Actress. Story of 2019, where Olivia Colman beat Glenn Close in the Best Actress category. I think it will probably happen again because Glenn Close, while is apparently pretty strong in Hillbilly Elegy, is in a really bad movie. And people just love The Father and Olivia Colman in The Father. So I think Olivia Colman is my winner right now. The dark horse, like Vanessa Kirby for the Best Supporting Actress category, is Amanda Seyfried in Mank. People say she gives her strongest performance ever and should definitely be a lock for a nomination. The last two slots right now I have are Saoirse Ronan and Young Jun-yoon from Minari. That last one I think is the least likely, but I think she'll probably still be in there because frankly I think people will love Minari. The other ones that I don't have right now are Ellen Bernstein, because I don't think Pieces of the Woman is going to be that popular with people, and Helena Zengel for News of the World, but I think she'll be held down by her lack of talking because in the film she doesn't know English, or her character doesn't. Well, that's the acting categories. Let's get on to the more technical ones, starting with Best Animated Feature. I think is already wrapped up for Soul. One, it's from Pixar. The Academy has given it to Pixar for their original movies almost every single time except twice. And that was for like The Good Dinosaur and one other movie. Soul is almost guaranteed, I think, to get a screenplay nomination. I also think it is a very good chance at a score nomination, if not a win, which would definitely bolster it over something like Wolfwalkers, which I consider to be my number 2. Wolfwalkers has appeared at a couple festivals and is going to come out on Apple TV Plus soon, and critics are loving it. But I think critics are also loving Soul, and even if they're about the same caliber of movie, the Pixar one always wins. Behind that, I have Ayo and the Witch, from Studio Ghibli and Hayao Miyazaki-san Garo. This new CG film, which is a new thing for Studio Ghibli, plans to be one of the best of the year. Problem is, I don't know if his son is going to deliver the same quality that he did in some of his masterpieces such as Spirited Away and My Neighbor Totoro. But if you can get close, this movie should be able to be on the list. My other 2 slots right now are going to Netflix's Over the Moon. It's a really fun kids flick with some fun songs, some songs I don't like, but I think that overall it's a really solid film and should be in this category for sure. My other pick, which I've also seen, is Onward. Also from Pixar, this movie, while being original, is definitely much weaker than I think will be Soul, but I think this movie will definitely be enjoyed by anyone who sees it, and I don't know how many people from the Academy actually watch these movies. They're just like, give it to Pixar. And I think that will happen again. My runners-up right now include Connected, produced by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, who were behind the Lego Movie. Now that movie is personally one of my favorite animation movies ever. So let's hope Connected is in the same realm. The other movie that I consider to be in the running is the new Croods movie. While the Croods movie isn't exactly the most loved or even critically acclaimed movie, it definitely isn't either one of those, it's not very popular, but it definitely could be a solid kids movie and could be better than something like Over the Moon. And especially if a bunch of the other movies flop, it could definitely get in. Now, let's move on to Best Score is one of my favorite technical categories. And I think that Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, one of my favorite composers, will get another win in this category. Their second. They'll also be receiving 2 nominations. One for Mank, which looks to have a beautiful 1940s Hollywood score, and for Soul, which looks to have a jazzy, upbeat feel. We also have James Newton Howard for News of the World for their epic western. We'll also have Ludwig Göransson for Tenet. People seem to love the score, even if they don't like the movie as much. And also Alexandre Desplat for The Midnight Sky, because frankly, Alexandre Desplat is just a juggernaut in this category, and it's hard to see him not getting another nomination. Emile Mosseri for Minari also seems to have a lot of hype, especially considering his good work in The Last Black Man in San Francisco. Terrence Blanchard's getting praised for his Defy Blood score, even though I think that's probably one of the worst parts of that movie. And then we also have Thomas Newman, who's received 15 nominations in this category, and he's going to be getting it for a Meryl Streep movie. But I don't think he'll get the nomination here, but he still desperately needs a win. Best Editing. Right now, I think The Trial of Chicago 7 has this locked up. It has fast-paced electric editing with lots of cuts, and the Academy loves that. But Mank could definitely be the winner here. It has a special 1940s-style editing, and the Academy could also love that. My other nominations right now are News of the World, One Night in Miami, and Nomadland. People are going to want to award Nomadland for Chloe Zhao's editing because she directed, edited, and wrote the screenplay. I mean, that's a lot. She also managed to do some phenomenal editing. One Night in Miami has a lot of electric, fast-paced editing to keep the play-like setting of One Night in Miami exciting. And News of the World, being a fast-paced Western-type movie, will also have a lot of cuts and will definitely be an exciting movie to watch. The other two runners-up I have right now are Minari. People are praising the editing in that movie, and Tenet, specifically for its backward sequences because of how it moves both forwards and backwards in time. Now let's move on to Best Cinematography. Like director picture, this seems to be a fight between Mank and Nomadland. Mank will have the slight edge here, and I think it will get the win because of its 1940s cinematography. The black and white just looks mwah in that movie. Nomadland definitely also has a lot of great shots. It has some great tracking shots, some great showing of Frances McDormand in some beautiful American Western landscapes. My last three slots right now, I have Tenet, One Night in Miami, and News of the World. News of the World, being a Western action type movie, will definitely have a lot of innovative shots and exciting shots as well. Tenet has some great shots on the water, and Hoyt van Hoytman is a great cinematographer, and I'm sure he'll get a nomination here. My last one is Tammy Malek for One Night in Miami. Her being a woman in a very dry landscape of cinematography category that's been dominated by men for a lot of years, the Academy will want to give her a nomination for her work in One Night in Miami. My other runners-up right now are Da 5 Bloods, Minari, The Trial of Chicago 7, and Judas and the Black Messiah. None of those really have any standout cinematography. I think that Minari might be the strongest here, especially if the Academy ends up loving it. Could get a lot of nominations, including this one, but I don't think that's going to happen. Let's move on to Best Production Design. For production design, Mank seems to be the choice. It replicates old Hollywood. Need I say more? Hollywood loves Hollywood. I think I've said that about a million times in this. One Night in Miami seems to be also praised for its intricate hotel design, and the way they're able to block the actors was very well designed. News of the World, with its old Western type landscapes and buildings, will definitely be in there for production design. I think The Trial of Chicago 7 for the courtroom and for its park scenes, especially its uniquely designed house, will also be in there. And lastly, right now I have Ma Rainey's Black Bottom for its recreation of some of the 1920s jazz studios and concerts. Midnight Sky is also definitely a contender, as with its space and Antarctic regions, it will definitely be a production design contender. For costumes, again, I think Mank definitely has this one in the bag. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom is also a very strong contender, but have you seen the feather on Amanda Seyfried in that trailer? I don't see how they wouldn't give it to them. The Personal History of David Copperfield is also a very strong contender here. Emma is also a very strong contender here. And lastly, I think that Mulan, for its ancient Chinese armor and costumes, will also be in there. Now, I know this is why you guys clicked on this video. Best makeup and hairstyling. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom looks to have this one in the bag. Viola Davis's transformation looks amazing, and I don't think any other movie is going to use makeup and hairstyling the way this one does. Now, behind it are a few good competitors, which include Mank and Birds of Prey. Birds of Prey has makeup on Harley Quinn to make her look like Harley Quinn, and all the other people to make them look like their characters. I haven't seen the movie, I don't really know what the characters are, but I'm pretty sure they used makeup, which is why I have it on the list. Mank probably also had extensive makeup and hairstyling to make them look like they're from the 1940s, and they probably used more makeup to compensate for the harsh lighting that they probably used for David Fincher's new 1940s movie. Behind that right now I have Hillbilly Elegy for its transformation mainly of Amy Adams and Glenn Close, especially Glenn Close, because she looks a little bit unrecognizable, definitely doesn't look like her normal Hollywood self. Behind that also I have The United States versus Billie Holiday. I think that movie will use a lot of fancy hairstyles and makeup, so that potentially could be in there. Other ones that I have right now are Emma, Mulan, Coming to America, and The Prom. Alright, let's move on to visual effects. For visual effects, I think it's right now a battle between The Midnight Sky and Tenet. Tenet uses a lot more practical effects, like they actually took a jet and smashed into an airport, while The Midnight Sky will be creating Antarctic landscapes and spaceships that obviously aren't real. So I think that Tenet actually has the edge on this one. 1917 won the award last year, and it didn't use a lot of visual effects. What it did use was a lot of practical effects, such as faking explosions by shooting debris and rocks up into the air. They only had a few takes for that, and they pulled it off rather good. So that's why I think that Tenet has the edge right now with The Midnight Sky. Behind that is Greyhound for its World War II battleships and all the explosions that go along with that, for Tom Hanks' new written movie. Behind that right now I have the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, which is said to have great visual effects because they had to redo them because people just thought the first one was hideous. So if you redo it, you better get an Oscar nomination. Mank is said to also have visual effects, so I wouldn't be surprised if it gets in as well. For this category, I'm only going to name my predicted nominees. From Over the Moon, I have Rocket to the Moon. I love that song personally. I think it's a very good one. It's the best out of the entire thing, and it's important plot-wise. I think there's also strong contention from songs like Low C Scene from Life Ahead. A song from The Prom, since it's a musical, will plan to be very good. Speak Now from One Night in Miami also looks to be a very hyped up one. And I think the other one that might also get the win is Parting Ways from Soul, or another song from Soul. Whatever song Soul ends up being the number one from that movie will likely be a nomination, I think. But right now, I'm going to go with Rocket to the Moon until we see any other predictions. Alright, let's move on to the last category. Sound. Right now, the sound category looks like it's going to go to the one blockbuster of the year, Tenet. I don't really like this pick because while the sound editing is incredible, like you really feel the impact of all the loud action set pieces, a lot of the dialogue isn't mixed well and it's really hard to hear, even in something like an IMAX theater. Behind that right now we have Bank for its unique sound editing and mixing because it has that 1940s aesthetic, like I've said before. We also have The Midnight Sky, The Sound of Metal, and The News of the World. Sound of Metal because it's going to have that hum in the drum because Riz Ahmed plays a man who is losing his hearing despite being a heavy metal artist. We also have News of the World for its big action set pieces. And then we'll have The Midnight Sky, which should have some great sound from the spaceships and the Antarctic atmosphere. Runners up right now that I have are Greyhound for its explosions from the World War II battleship, and then The Trial of Chicago 7 for some of its more uplifting scenes. Personally, I thought the most well-mixed part of the movie was actually the trailer. When they were drowning, the whole world is watching. It really brought that message into the trailer a lot more than it did in the movie. That's going to do it for my predictions. If you guys have made it to the end of the video, thank you so much. This is my first video ever, and if you could hit like and subscribe to help support me, I would really appreciate that. I'll have more Oscar predictions coming out soon. Those ones will probably include foreign and best documentary feature. And if I can get my hands on some of the best shorts of the year, I'll make sure to include those. I'll also be coming out with a bunch of reviews and analysis. I'll be also doing one called Crash is a Comedy. If you don't know what Crash is, it was the winner of 2005 for Best Picture, and I think it's a comedy. If that sounds interesting to you, make sure to subscribe and look out for that video. My name is Daniel Ling, and you've been watching Reviewing. Thanks for watching.